All right, let's now bring in SABC News correspondent John Beaver. He is in Rome, Italy for us. I can only imagine, John, what a somber moment it is for many Catholics in Rome today. So just give us up to speed in terms of what is happening now. I mean, while the funeral for Pope Francis, as we've been reporting, will take place at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome on Saturday, in a break from tradition and in accordance to his wishes, he will be buried in Rome's Basilica of St. Mary Major.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. What we've seen here over the last day or so is a huge number of people arriving into Rome and making their way towards Vatican City behind me to pay their respects. There are long queues both there and at the Basilica where he is going to be buried, as you mentioned. People really just wanting to be here in person. I spoke to some people this morning who arrived in Rome not having actually anywhere to stay. They just decided it was important to get here, and then they were going to worry about the logistics of where they might stay once they got here. That shows you the sort of levels that people are going to in order to be here themselves. As you mentioned, the funeral due to take place on Saturday morning local time. We are expecting hundreds of thousands of mourners, possibly into the millions, and we are expecting dozens of heads of state, so presidents, prime ministers, kings and queens from across the world, all coming here to pay their respects and to be part of what is going to be a huge global event.
And I want to speak about, the world leaders who are attending, because we've seen, obviously, in just the past few hours, how world leaders have poured out their condolences. Of course, understanding that Pope Francis himself was very forthright, with his comments about wars and also his stance on, global injustice. One can imagine there will be this huge showing on the political front and at his funeral. Interestingly enough, I just saw a report that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and First Lady Olena Zelensky are planning to attend the funeral of Pope Francis. Just give us a sense then in terms of how the world has reacted to the Pope's passing.
Yeah, we are expecting to see world leaders truly from around the globe coming here. I would expect there will be many prominent African politicians and people of faith, as well as from the wider world as well. Of course, Pope Francis came from the Southern Hemisphere, the first Pope to do so. He was the children of Italian immigrants, but he himself was born in Argentina. So there is a lot of talk about representatives from the global south being at this funeral as well, because this was a community that Pope Francis certainly championed. As you mentioned, he was very quick to point out injustices in the world and some of the failings of the world. He talked about the plight of migrants. That was a topic of conversation that he often returned to. So I would expect we will see a very diverse range of people here, as well as, of course, some of the more traditional, bigger names who come to an event like this. So people like the US President Donald Trump and his wife, the First Lady Melania Trump, they will be here, as will, as you mentioned, President Zelensky of Russia. Now, Pope Francis of Ukraine. Pope Francis had been criticised for not calling out Russia for the invasion and very much focusing on Ukraine, but not condemning Russia. So that is a problem that he faced in his life. But President Zelensky of Ukraine has said that he will be here. So we are expecting to see a very broad range of world leaders attend the funeral, which takes place on Saturday morning.
And I mean, Catholics across the globe, and to a large extent, even those that are not Catholics, just ordinary, global citizens, are intrigued by the what next question, following the death of Pope Francis. Talk to us about the process then that will follow and will shape the election of a new Pope. I mean, what are you hearing so far?
Yeah, I certainly think that this is an event that, as you say, does not just appeal to Catholics. There will be plenty of people paying very close interest to this who are not Catholic or maybe not of any faith at all. But of course, the role of Pope now is very much one of diplomat as well, and a role of someone who can call out some of the injustices in the world, as we were talking about with Pope Francis. So I think all of that is going to be taken into account when you look at who is going to come to the funeral to pay their respects. In terms of what happens after the funeral, well, the cardinals will form a conclave no sooner than May the 5th. And where they will decide who the next pope will be. Now, you might have seen the recent Hollywood film of the same name, or if you know your history, you'll know that all the cardinals will gather in closed chambers where there will be no contact with the outside world. There's no internet, no phones, and they have to submit their nomination for pope. And we will see the smoke rising from Vatican City behind us when they do manage to choose a pope. So that is what we have in store. Of course, now a lot of questions about who the next pope will be. Some wondering whether that is going to be another representative from the southern hemisphere, possibly from Asia. Some saying the next pope could come from Africa. Maybe some saying the next pope should come from Africa as a way of spreading the word of the Catholic faith across the world.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much for that update. Really appreciate it. That's the SABC's news correspondent, John Beaver, there for us. He is in Rome, Italy.